Hey guys, how's it going, dude? Here I'm back with another video. It's another theory video. This is for season 5 though. And I got some good news. I don't think Eddie's dead. But before I go into that theory, let's look at this awesome official Netflix poster that I bought. Got it framed. It's huge. Oh, the reflection of my light and stuff, but look at that. It's Eddie in the Upside Down. A lot more ripped than Eddie in the show, but Hellfire Club, it's huge. It is absolutely huge. And as soon as I saw it, I was like, I have to buy that. And then I was like, now I have to buy a frame for it. But yeah, I thought I'd show you that as we're going to be talking about Eddie today. So obviously Eddie, incredible character, had amazing scenes, especially in Volume 2. And, you know, obviously, like I said before, the solo was incredible. His sacrifice was, absolutely heart-wrenching. Now, is there a chance that he is still alive? Answer, yes. How? A character in D&D called Cass. Now, Cass, or Kaz, was like a resurrected vampire lord lieutenant person in D&D. Now, I'm not a specialist in D&D. I am looking to get into D&D very, very soon, but I don't know all that much about it. But yeah, Kaz was like Vecna's right-hand man and was enslaved by Vecna and did his bidding for years and years and years. So, what if Vecna revives Eddie in the Upside Down and, you know, creates this kind of like lieutenant guy to terrorize Hawkins, or Vecna could use Eddie's body as a vessel. But there were certain clues that could allude to the fact that Eddie will become Kaz. Now, he died in the Upside Down. We don't know what that means. You know, if you die there, are you dead for good? Are you dead in our world? Or, you know, can you die in the Upside Down? The Upside Down is obviously locked back in time. It's locked in 1983. So does that have any consequence with Eddie being dead? Vecna was eventually killed in D&D lore by Cass, apparently, and Cass struck Vecna down with a sword. Now, obviously, Eddie was like using weapons and a shield and stuff in Volume 2, but also there is a sword that was used to kill a Demogorgon by Hopper. So could that sword be a sign of things to come? He was also killed by bats, and normally bats equals vampires, and also Eddie had bat tattoos on his arm. I know, obviously, you know, there's a lot of, you know, well, that's a bit of a stretch kind of thing going on there, but I do think that there could be potentially some weight behind it, and if they're going to revive him, I think this will be the way that they do it. However, having said all of that, there is one other candidate that I think is quite strong to potentially be Cass, and that is Billy. I could see Billy coming back as this Cass type character, like Vecna's right hand man, and then turning on him. Because one of the things that gets me about this theory is in D&D lore, Cass was like enslaved by Vecna for years and years and years under this trancey thing, you know, under a spell, and it took him years to break free of it. Right? Well, if they don't do a time jump, which I hope that they don't, then Eddie will just kind of be under Vecna's spell for a season and then maybe break free within the season, and so it'll only be like a couple of weeks or whatever, however long the series takes. So it's not exactly in line, not that it has to be in line, but then again, if there is a time jump, then that could explain, you know, that Eddie has been this character for a number of years and then eventually breaks free. But someone that we do know who has been a kind of conduit for Vecna is Billy. And he has done those years, you know? Yeah, I can see that potentially being a thing there. And it's literally just dawned on me, as I've been making this video right now, another candidate for this type of character could potentially be Will, which would be really cool. So, yeah, interesting. What do you think about the Kaz, Eddie being Kaz theory? Do let me know down below. Okay, for the remainder of this video, we're going to take a look at your theories and your thoughts on Season 4 Part 2. So all the comments in my previous video. Naturally Curious Brady says, it's odd that even with a 2-hour, 30-minute finale, it seemed to be a bit rushed. I agree that the biggest complaint comes from the 2-day time jump. I would have loved to have seen Dustin reunite with the rest of the crew Upside Down, and fall into Steve's arms as he mourns Eddie. We could then see everyone else's reaction to Eddie's death as Steve confronts Dustin. We could have had a scene of the crew rushing Max to a hospital, as well as their reactions to seeing the destruction of Hawkins. We could have also seen where Vecna went and how he plans on recovering and returning in Season 5. I also would have loved to see Enzo reunite with his family and see some closure with Yuri and Murray's characters. The last we saw of them was in Russia, and I would have liked to have seen how they ended up. I'm happy with what we got, and I can kind of fill in the gaps, but I would have loved to have seen a bit more from the finale. Honestly, wouldn't mind if this episode was split in half, ending when the portal opens up, and then giving us a good hour and a half of epilogue. With so many characters this season, it feels weird to skip ahead 2 days and not conclude some character stories for this season. Yeah, 100%. That was very odd. There were so many question marks left. What happened in that 2 days? Why was Dustin seemingly the only one that was mourning Eddie? Things like that. Katie says, I think Will is going to be the central focus of Season 5. My theory is that it will be revealed why he is so connected to the Upside Down and why he was taken, and this will lead to Vecna trying to recruit him. I could see him using Will's feelings for Mike against him, and with the fact that everyone except for Jonathan had neglected him since Season 2, he'll be at his most vulnerable and will potentially have a villain arc. It started with him, so I kind of feel like it has to end with him. Steve is also definitely dying as soon as he started talking about his future. I knew we were going to lose him eventually. Yeah, that kind of, with the Will becoming the villain, that kind of ties into the whole Cass thing. And literally, like I say, only through making this video did I even think, oh my goodness, Will could be Cass. So, yeah, he falls to Vecna and then he comes back and kills Vecna. That could be really good. That could be really good. Kango says, I found it really odd that Steve and Nancy stuff didn't get much attention at the end. I know there was that awkward scene with Jonathan and Nancy hammering wood, but I didn't feel justified with it. Yeah, that was very odd. Obviously, we still have another season. There's still a whole season of character development to go. It wasn't always going to get wrapped up in a neat bow at the end of Season 4, but I do understand the frustration. Purple says, I think Vecna played everyone like puppets and planned this all out perfectly because he could see the future. That's why he showed Nancy things to make sure they would go to his house, because I think he needed Max's death in that location. He planned it all and it went as planned. Very interesting, because I guess, the 4 portals made the crisscross through Hawkins, didn't it? So perhaps you are right, maybe Max did have to die in his house. Reality Check says, in the scene where Elle revives Max, the screen pans out in a counterclockwise spin. To me, that represented some sort of time reversal attempt by Elle, possibly just inside Max's body. Given that it's stated Elle is basically the same as Henry and therefore has the same powers, this scene reminded me of Henry reversing the time on the grandfather clock in his own attempt to control time. Pretty sure they're related, but not sure what to make of it. I'm very cautious of this time travel stuff because it can come off as cheap. So I'm hoping that they come away from it, but we shall have to see. Let's have a look at another one. I've been waiting for your review, Duty. I'm curious as to where everyone was at emotionally. I don't think I've ever been this emotionally invested into a cast of characters before where I wept when they died. Not even when Glenn and Abraham got their brains bashed in during Walking Dead. I think it goes to show how well the Duffers did at creating the characters. Absolutely, I wept. Let me know down below, how did you find Eddie's death? Do let us know. Joey, my thoughts. I think they needed to end on a bittersweet note because it's 4 seasons in and no main characters have died, which is unheard of these days in TV shows, especially when the stakes they have set are so high and yet no one important to the overall story dies. Not to mention this is the 3rd time they have faked out a main character death, and now they have given 11 almost godlike powers of healing which came out of nowhere. Don't get me wrong, I'm happy Max is alive, but next season I think if they are going to kill a main character, they have to follow through. My theories, Max's letters. I think sadly Max will probably be in the coma for the majority of the season because of her letters. From what I remember, she gave out a letter to every important character to her, but also to her family. If I have done my math right, that is 11 letters in total. Coincidence? I think not. I think next season, at the very start of every episode, one of these letters will be read out by their corresponding characters, and then that episode will be about them. That would be very interesting. Mike dies in the first episode of Season 5. In the finale, Mike is described as the heart of the group, and that if he was lost, the group would be broken. I think this line is foreshadowing of Mike losing his life, which would be heartbreaking, but also sets the stakes for the rest of the season. I disagree. I just feel like if they were to kill Mike for the reasons you've given, which are totally valid reasons, I think they would have done it in the finale of Season 4. I do think that, because I don't think that you'd start a season with a death like that. 11 will sacrifice herself. The show started with her, and it's only right it ends with her. 11 would also be grieving for most of the season if Theory 2 is right, which would then leave our group vulnerable as their best fighter is indisposed. Then in the second to last episode, after putting it off for so long because of her guilt, 11 would read her letter from Max, which would give her the strength and courage to fight Vecna. 11 will then fight Vecna, fatally wound him, but she herself would be fatally wounded. Using the last of her strength, I believe, will close the portal, but unfortunately this will kill her. I do agree. Elle cannot make it out of Season 5. Surely. Reese Nicholson. Eddie's death was the most emotional thing I've ever been... Oh, sorry. Eddie's death was the most emotional I've ever been over a character. I think because he's just relatable to me. There we go. Reese is like Eddie, everyone. That's awesome. Great person to be like. Incognitus Maximus says, rest in peace, Eddie. Guy had one of the best, shortest, epic runs of a character ever, and the town thinks he's a murderer. Maybe now that Vecna is pouring into the real world, things get better explained and the world learns the truth about Eddie and the fact that he is a hero. The scene Dustin talks to Eddie's uncle got me good. Oh my goodness, I just got over, well, I hadn't really got over Eddie's death, but then the uncle scene, oh my word. Radagast, since Vecna keeps calling himself a god, I think the Kate Bush is actually a foreshadow. If I only could, I'd make a deal with God and get him to swap our places. Someone is going to make a deal with Vecna to switch places with another. Maybe Lucas making a deal to free Max's mind, or maybe Jonathan making a deal to save Will, who's not fully free yet. I think that there's also some iconography of when Elle gets taken by Vecna and she's put against the door in like a cross, and then obviously she has the healing powers and stuff. Now, although someone did say, which I thought was very interesting, that maybe she just used her powers as like CPR, which would make more sense because she can move objects, so she could obviously compress objects. So she could compress and expand Max's heart in theory a minute after she died, which would explain the brain damage. With the Kate Bush song and the Jesus iconography and stuff, you know, Jesus is obviously, well, essentially God, the Son of God. So maybe Elle will make a deal with God to swap places with Max or something like that to bring her back. Okay, Davey, we'll finish with you, sir. I still think there's something with Miss Kelly. We know the Duffer brothers don't put stuff in for no reason, and they were way too many clock-related things in her house. Personally, I think she does have something to do with it all. We have 4 replies. She seemed too clean to be under the influence of the type of mind control we've seen so far, which makes me think she might be a willing participant, either sympathetic to Vecna Flair due to her own jaded nihilism, or perhaps she is trading lives under duress, trying to save someone else from Vecna and making a deal with him. David replied saying, I've seen people say she could have possibly worked in Hawkins' lab and knew number 1, but I don't know. Yeah, quite possibly. I think she may have been like a... I'm trying to think of the age though. Yeah, no, that could work, I think. She could have been because she's a therapist, isn't she? Or counsellor, so she could have been a therapist at Hawkins' lab. It could all link. It really, really could. But there we go, guys. That's it for today. I hope you enjoyed. What is your most favourite in the whole world? Terrible English there. Theory coming up for Season 5. Do you want Eddie to still be alive? Do you think that would be cheap? Do you think that will take away from his death? Well, I mean, of course it will, but would you rather that he was alive than be dead? Do you want him to be Kaz? Do you want him to be just Eddie? Or do you want him to be 6 feet under? Do let me know. And I want to know all your favourite theories going forwards. Do you like this kind of content? It's all bonus content, but do you like it? I need to know down below. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, all that good stuff. Thank you so much. I wear polo shirts now. Sweet one, geese.